In this video, we will learn to prepare samples for Western blotting. Here are the materials that we will need for today's protocol. First off, I'm going to pipette my lamelli buffer into a tube labeled blank. This will get combined with beta-mercaptoethanol in the next step. Now I'm going to move into the fume hood anytime I'm using beta-mercaptoethanol. And here I'm going to add 25 microliters of beta-mercaptoethanol to my 225 microliters of lamelli buffer. This is used in a 9-to-1 ratio. So here I'm adding this into the blank tube, and then I'm mixing by pipetting to ensure it all gets combined. Once that's done, I can move on to adding distilled water to my first sample tube. This is all measured based off the calculations I performed previously. I'm going to add the distilled water in first because this is always the largest volume when you're preparing the samples, and we always want to add smaller volumes to larger ones. Once that's done, I'm going to add my loading buffer, or the blank, to the sample tube. I use this in a 4 times dilution to the amount of sample that I'm going to prepare. So for example, if I want to make 40 microliters of one sample, I'm going to be adding 10 microliters of buffer into my tube. The next step is going to be adding the actual protein. So this is from the tissue that I've previously prepared, and it is now defrosted on ice after being removed from the -80-degree freezer. I'm going to place my tube on ice before this because I always want the samples to stay as cold as possible. So here I'm going to pipette my sample, and then I'm going to place it into my sample tube. What I'm also doing here is mixing by pipetting to ensure that it all gets combined. Now that that's finished, what I'm going to do next is place my tubes on the heat block at 95 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes. I can then proceed to vortexing my samples, putting them back on ice. Thank you for watching this video on how to prepare samples for Western blotting.